What happens when a rich Saudi sheikh invites a mysterious woman into a forbidden part of his palace, only to uncover a terrifying secret buried by his ancestors? This is not just a love story, it's a tale of ancient curses, dark bargains, and a chilling choice that could change everything. Stay with me, because the ending will leave you breathless. The sun blazed over the golden dunes of the empty quarter. A convoy of black SUVs carved their way through the sand, leaving a trail of dust behind. Inside the lead vehicle sat Sheikh Khalid al-Mansour, draped in white robes, fingers heavy with rings. His eyes were hidden behind dark sunglasses, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking of her, Isabella, a European artist who had come to Riyadh for an exhibition. She was unlike any woman he had ever met, graceful, enigmatic, and fearless. They met at a gala hosted beneath a canopy of stars, surrounded by gold lanterns and jasmine-scented air. She laughed when others bowed. She asked questions no one dared voice. And she looked at him, not the sheik, not the wealth, but him. He had invited her to his private oasis, a place hidden deep within the desert, where marble fountains flowed and white peacocks wandered freely. She accepted without hesitation. Now, the oasis loomed ahead, a mirage turned real. Palm trees swayed in the hot wind. A servant opened the car door. Khalid stepped out, adjusting his headscarf, scanning the horizon. There she stood, by the edge of the reflecting pool, in a flowing silk dress that caught the sun like fire. She smiled at him, but her eyes were unreadable. He approached slowly. Something felt off. The air was too still. Even the birds had gone quiet. She spoke first. Her voice was calm, but there was a tremble in her hand. "I found something," she said. Khalid frowned. "What do you mean?" "In the room with the ivory screens," she said. He froze. No one was supposed to enter that room. Not even his most trusted staff. "What did you see?" he asked, his tone sharper now. Isabella turned away from him and walked toward the archway.
"Come," she said.
He followed, the stone floor cool beneath his sandals. The shadows inside the room were long and dense. Only thin shafts of sunlight pierced through the ornate carvings. It smelled of oud, age, and something metallic. She pointed to the far wall. He turned and saw it. The painting was half hidden beneath a velvet cover. He yanked it down and stared. It was a portrait of a woman. She looked exactly like Isabella, but the paint was cracked, old. Dust clung to the frame. Her eyes in the portrait were wide with terror. Lips parted in a silent scream. Khalid's mouth went dry. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. Isabella stepped closer. She was trembling now. "I saw the date etched into the back," she whispered. 1883. He turned to face her. His heart pounded in his chest. "That is impossible," he said. But she only looked at him. And in her gaze, there was fear. Not of the painting. Of him. He stepped back. The room seemed to grow smaller. The air heavier. She reached into her bag and pulled out something small, wrapped in cloth. She unwrapped it slowly. It was a ring. Heavy. Gold. Engraved with his family's crest. But it was worn with age. Older than it should have been. She held it out to him. "I found this beneath the floorboards," she said. Khalid stared at it. His fingers twitched. He did not take it. The silence stretched. He looked at her again. She was pale now, breathing fast. He opened his mouth to speak. But then, a distant door creaked open. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Slow. Measured. Coming closer. Isabella's eyes widened. She turned toward the sound. Khalid moved to block her. But she stepped around him. "I need to see," she said. And before he could stop her, she was gone from the room. He followed, his pulse thundering in his ears. The corridor was empty, but the scent had changed. No longer oud. Now it was smoke. And something burning. He turned the corner. And stopped. The hallway was shrouded in shadow. Thick smoke curled along the ceiling. A low humming sound filled the air, like chanting heard underwater. At the end of the corridor stood a door. A door that should not have existed. It was iron, rusted and cold. No one had passed through it in decades. Not since his grandfather sealed it. His breath caught in his throat. Isabella was standing before it. Her hand hovered inches from the surface. "Khalid," she said without turning. "What is this?" He said nothing. His voice had vanished. Memories began to surface, half buried, forgotten. Whispers in the dark when he was a boy. Warnings from old servants. Never open the iron door. Never let it breathe. But Isabella touched it, and the lock snapped open with a hiss. The door creaked inward. A gust of cold air rushed out, as if the room had been holding its breath for centuries. Inside, the walls were blackened. Chains hung from the ceiling unmoving. In the center stood a pedestal. Upon it a glass box. And inside the box, another ring, identical to the one Isabella had found. She stepped forward, drawn to it like a moth to flame. "No," Khalid said, finally finding his voice. He rushed to her, grabbing her arm. "You do not understand what this place is." She turned to him, her face pale, eyes shimmering with confusion. "Then tell me," she said. But he could not, because even he did not fully know. Only that generations before him had feared this place. And the woman in the portrait. And the ring. Isabella looked at the box again. Then at him. "You are hiding something," she said softly. The pedestal began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling. The humming grew louder, more urgent. Khalid looked down at her hand. The old ring she had found was glowing faintly. A red light pulsing beneath the gold. He backed away. Isabella stood frozen. From behind the pedestal, a shadow began to rise. It had no form, no face, just a shape. Cold, dark, and watching. Khalid whispered a prayer under his breath. But the shadow moved. Not toward him. Toward her. Toward Isabella. She gasped, stepping back. But her foot caught on the uneven stone. She stumbled. The ring on her finger flared bright. And the shadow surged forward. And the shadow surged forward. Silent as smoke, swift as a scream swallowed in a dream. It wrapped around her like water, seeping into her skin. Isabella cried out. Her voice echoed off the ancient walls, sharp, terrified. Khalid lunged forward, trying to pull her away. But his hands passed through the shadow, like fog. He felt nothing. Only cold. A cold that clung to his bones. Her eyes locked onto his. Wide. Pleading. Frightened. Khalid. Her voice broke. And then her body went still. The room fell silent. The humming ceased. The air hung heavy, as if mourning. He reached out, hands shaking, and touched her shoulder. She turned slowly. Too slowly. Her movements unnatural. Her face was pale. Eyes glassy. But she was smiling. Not her smile. Something else wore it. Khalid, she said again. But the voice was layered. Hers and another. Older. Familiar. His heart dropped. He stepped back, stumbling into the wall. You should not have brought her here, the voice said. She was the key. Khalid stared at her, at the thing that had become her. What are you? He whispered. The thing tilted its head. And for a moment, her eyes flashed gold. Then black. Then gold again. The past, it said. And your blood. A wind howled through the corridor, slamming the iron door shut. The sound rang like a final verdict. The ring on her finger cracked. The glass box shattered. And far beneath the palace, something ancient began to stir. And far beneath the palace, something ancient began to stir. A deep rumble shook the floor beneath Khalid's feet. Dust trickled from the ceiling like sand from an hourglass. Time was unraveling. He looked at Isabella. No, the thing inside her. She stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, head tilted in quiet amusement. But her eyes never left his. Khalid, the voice said again. Low. Mocking. You open the seal. He backed away, heart pounding like war drums. I did not mean to, he said. A laugh echoed through the chamber. Dry. Bitter. Older than language. But you did. The shadows on the walls began to twist. They grew limbs,
Eyes.
faces that flickered in and out of view, each one whispering his name. He turned, desperate to flee, but the iron door no longer led to the hallway. Just stone.
Cold. Solid. Sealed.
Isabella took a step forward. The ground groaned beneath her. You were always meant to return, the voice said, to finish what your grandfather began. Khalid clenched his fists. His breath came in sharp bursts. What did he do? The thing smiled wider. He made a bargain. The floor cracked, a jagged line splitting the tiles. From within the chasm, red light pulsed like a heartbeat. He gave her to us. Isabella's form shimmered, flickering like candlelight in a storm. For power, it whispered. For glory. Khalid shook his head.
No.
He would never. He did. The voice cut in. And now the debt is due. A scream rose from the depths of the chasm.
Not one.
Many. Layered. Endless. Khalid covered his ears. But the sound was inside him now. Pressing against his skull. Crushing thought. Twisting memory. He fell to his knees. The marble burned beneath him. He looked up through blurred eyes. And saw her. Isabella. What remained of her. Extending a hand. A single word carved into her palm.
Obey.
He stared at it. And felt the pull. Familiar. Heavy. Inevitable. He wanted to run. To scream. But his body was no longer his. He reached out. And touched her hand. He reached out. And touched her hand. A shock jolted through him, as if lightning had found its way into his bones. The room vanished. The air, the stone, the heat gone. Only blackness remained. Endless. Weightless. And then whispers. Thousands of them. Circling him. Inside him. Each one chanting his name in a language older than sand. He tried to move, but his limbs were suspended in shadow. Memories twisted around him like smoke. His father's voice. The scent of the desert after rain. The taste of dates and rosewater. All of it slipping away. Being consumed. And then, a light. Small. Flickering. Isabella. Her true self. Somehow still there. Buried beneath the thing that wore her. She reached for him from within the dark. Her expression full of pain. And something else. Hope. You can stop it, her voice echoed. Weak, but hers. You must break the bond. Khalid looked at his hand, still holding hers. The mark on her palm burned brighter.
Obey.
It pulsed with every beat of his heart. He clenched his jaw. No, he said. He focused. Fought the pull. Every nerve screamed. But he pulled away.
Broke the contact.
The darkness shrieked in fury. The shadows recoiled. The chasm cracked wider, vomiting fire and ash. Isabella screamed, but it was the creature inside her that roared. Her body lifted off the ground, limbs stiff, back arched. The thing inside her began to unravel, strands of smoke pulling away from her skin. Khalid ran forward. He gripped her shoulders. The fire rose around them, hungry and wild. I am here, he said. Come back. Her eyes fluttered. She blinked. And for one moment, they were clear.
Free.
She fell into him, collapsing in his arms. But behind her, the shadow was not finished. It began to take shape again. Not in her. In him. It surged toward him, twisting and howling, desperate for a new host. He had seconds. Maybe less. And only one choice. He looked at Isabella. Then at the chasm. And stepped toward the edge. He stepped toward the edge. The fire roared beneath him, alive and ancient. Behind him, the shadow lunged. A black wave of hunger and rage. But Khalid did not stop. He tightened his grip on Isabella, holding her close. I will not let it take you, he whispered. Not again. Not ever. With one final breath he leapt. Into the fire. The shadow followed, screaming as it plunged after him. The chasm swallowed them both. And then, silence. The flames vanished. The earth closed. The chamber trembled, then stilled. High above, the palace stood untouched. A soft breeze swept across the oasis. Palm fronds whispered. Birdsong returned to the trees, and Isabella lay on the stone floor alone. Her eyes fluttered open. She gasped, sat up, and searched the room. But Khalid was gone. No smoke, no shadow, only the faint scent of oud.
And a ring.
Lying at the edge of the pedestal. She picked it up, clutching it to her chest. Tears traced silent paths down her cheeks. Then she rose, slowly, and walked toward the morning light. The curse had ended. But the story of Sheikh Khalid al-Mansour would live forever, whispered in the winds of the desert, and carved into the silence beneath the sand.